Elon Musk is now a George Floyd homicide denier. He says he was not murdered. Derek Chauvin did not murder him, and he should be released. This is a far-right white supremacist conspiracy theory.
A George Floyd homicide denier. Remember that. He said it's a far-right white supremacist conspiracy theory, or is it actually just the truth finally coming out? This was not a murder. Elon Musk tweeting that, quote, Derek Chauvin was unjustly convicted of murder, therefore he should be freed. The facts show that he was not the cause of death, nor did he at any time intend for a death to occur. Whatever else he may be, he is not a murderer. That is the truth, end quote. That from Elon Musk. According to the autopsy of George Floyd, that is true. Fact number one, at the time of his death, George Floyd had heart disease, which contributed to his death. Fact number two, his body had no life-threatening injuries, and there were no injuries to his neck muscles or any other part of his body. That was in the autopsy. Fact number three, this is the part the left always ignores. At the time of death, George Floyd had a deadly dose of fentanyl and methamphetamine in his system, and he allegedly swallowed more drugs before his arrest so police would not find the drugs. He was also COVID-19 positive. Tou Thao was one of the police officers on the scene during George Floyd's arrest, and because he was there, he spent almost 5 years in prison. Liz Collin is a journalist with Alpha News. She was also a producer on the documentary The Fall of Minneapolis, which is spectacular and lays all of this out. It's great to see you both tonight. Tou, it's nice to have you back. You were there that day. I think I know where you stand on this, but do you think that justice was served? Do you think that Derek Chauvin should be in jail right now?
Absolutely not. There should never have been a trial to begin with. The enormous amount of misconduct and enormous amount of media attention that was redirected away from the truth just pretty much expose it, what it really was.
Liz, Chauvin is now serving a 21-year federal sentence in addition to a 22-and-a-half-year state sentence, meaning if Donald Trump were to pardon Derek Chauvin, which I think could happen after the midterms, he would still have that state sentence. Do you think that Chauvin is an innocent man here?
Oh, from the very beginning, we knew that this was such a flawed case, Rob. And I think finally we are getting at the truth and attacking kind of that state sentence that you mentioned. And this has all sort of been brought up again with Elon Musk and this court filing that happened last week. So the ball now back in the hands of the Hennepin County court system. And this isn't not about Derek Chauvin. This is about Tou Thao, Alex King, Thomas Lane, all four who were there on May 25th, 2020. We found at least 10 other cases as well. People have wondered, how are they charging all of these cops in Minnesota? Well, Chauvin's attorney, Greg Joseph is his name, he lays that out in this brand new petition filed last week, saying that state law was never followed. A grand jury was never convened in Chauvin's case and many other cop cases as well in Minnesota. And this has been going on for at least a decade where due process was ignored. Attorney General Keith Ellison at the heart of this, and also Governor Tim Walz as well.
And the worst possible state, Minnesota, for this to happen. Too, I was just reading about what life has been like in prison for Derek Chauvin. He's been stabbed at least 22 times. It seems like they are trying to kill him. It seems like the system is making that at least possible. You were in prison. Did you feel safe? Do you feel like your life was being threatened?
Absolutely. It was a day-to-day thing where you have to keep your eye out and watch your back. And I can kind of get a feel for what he's going through. I'm not surprised that he was attacked, and I suspect that many of those who help persecute us would want nothing more than for him to be hurt and even killed.
And silenced. Do you think that the powers that be wanted you silenced forever as well?
Absolutely. That was they didn't want me to come out and talk to you today.
Wow.
They're afraid of the truth, and they want us silenced. And if that means death, and that was what they would want us to do, is just to go away or die.
Well, Tou, we're glad that you're back with us tonight. Liz, the documentary is spectacular. I know I've said that to you before. Let me just propose an alternative narrative to what 99% of the country thinks actually happened that day in Minneapolis, Minnesota. There was no murder. There was no racist police officers. George Floyd died of a combination of a drug overdose and heart failure Race had nothing to do with it, but because of the political pressure at that time, of course, the video, the I Can't Breathe, a show trial took place. Derek Chauvin was railroaded and became the scapegoat in all of this. Does that sound more like what actually happened that day?
Absolutely. I encourage people to watch it, thefallofminneapolis.com. But you're right, a grand jury would have been able to see all of this evidence from the start if state law were followed. The MRT, the body camera footage. You would have seen Thomas Lane calling for an ambulance 36 seconds after George Floyd himself asked to be laid on the ground. Floyd talking about how he couldn't breathe before Chauvin's even there. Lane doing CPR. Again, the autopsy, the toxicology results. And again, that autopsy clearly stating that Floyd died of cardiopulmonary arrest, a heart attack. But instead, what followed was a show trial for Derek Chauvin and the others.
That ambulance went to the wrong address. So instead of being there in something like a minute and a half, it took almost 9 minutes. Tou, you were trained to do what Liz just brought up. It's called MRT. Can you tell us what that is?
Well, it's when you're dealing with a person who's possibly high on drugs. We're supposed to restrain them on the ground to prevent them from hurting themselves and perhaps hurting other people. So that's the whole purpose of the MRT, was to restrain that person and call an ambulance and stand by. And that's what we were doing. We're standing by for an ambulance. And essentially, we're at the mercy of the ambulance and how fast it can get there.
Yeah, and I want to play this video. This is so important because the rest of the media, they never play this. Before he was placed on the ground, George Floyd, a very big guy, high on drugs, known in the neighborhood, had been in prison before, had been arrested at least 8 times before. Here's George Floyd resisting arrest.
God, I'm claustrophobic, man. Get in the car. Get in the car. Get in the front. Please. No, you're not getting in the front. I'm claustrophobic. Get in the car. Okay, man, okay? I'm not a bad guy, man. Get in the car. I'm not a bad guy. Get in the squad. I'm going down. I'm going down. I'm not going to breathe. Bro, you won't die of a heart attack, I know I can't breathe.
Wow. Tou, you can hear him there. He was standing. He said he couldn't breathe. And then somebody walked by. It looked like a bystander who said, "You're going to die of a heart attack." And that's exactly what happened. Looking back 6 years later, what do you make of every George Floyd mural and monument and statue that you see, that you pass by? What's your reaction?
The only thing I can really say about that is just satanic.
Yeah. Tou Thao, glad you're out. Good to have you on. By the way, have you had any contact with Chauvin since you've been out?
No, I have not had any direct contact with him or spoken to him.
Okay. I know the president is at the very least looking at this. I think it'd be interesting, Liz, but those state charges are not going to go away. And I think even if the president does pardon him, they'll keep him, just 15 seconds, Liz, but they'll keep him in jail for the full 22 years. Is that what you think as well?
Walz has already made that clear, but until we have a different leadership here, we actually need someone with moral courage in Minnesota to make the right decision.
Tou Thao, Liz Collin, appreciate you being here tonight. We're going to continue covering this story. I know you will as well. Thank you.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.